we're going to get going. So I'm Maura Cunningham, and I suppose I should get this going. Obviously, you all know the topic. And I want to introduce my guest panelists too. So right here to my left is, I'm Maura Cunningham, and I'm the founder and CEO. I suppose I should say that. And right here on my left is Angel Colon, and he's with Stuyvesant High School in New York City. And we've been there for about 4 years now. And next to his left is Kelly Schoenberg, and Kelly is with Invesco. You may know that name, and it's an investment firm. Does a lot of ETFs. And Kelly and Invesco are the corporate sponsor of the program at Stuyvesant High School. So we're going to discuss girls' mindset on financial and investment literacy. And then we're going to talk about a public-private partnership and how to form those in your school. Okay? And if there's anything else that you guys want to cover, again, since we're nice and small, we can potentially do that. All right. So I want to start first with the mission that we have. So Rock the Street, Wall Street is a financial and investment literacy program, and I want to stress and investment for a reason. And I'm going to start again. Rock the Street, Wall Street is a financial and investment literacy program designed to spark the interest of a diverse population of high school girls into careers of finance. So often people will ask me, well, what is your mission? And so they hear me say this word by word, and they say, oh, you got that down. So I should by now. And so I want to, again, stress the investment side of this, simply because the research shows that when there is financial literacy in the high schools, it's normally about budgeting, saving, and identity theft. And that's it. And the research also shows that no one, I'm going to repeat that, no one is speaking to the girls about investments. And so as a result, women have a tendency when they get older to save, but they don't invest. And if you don't invest, you're not going to be able to keep up with the rate of inflation. And so it's important that we get these girls much earlier than we have been trying to get them with regard to what's called managed risk, and I'll talk more about that later. But I do want to make sure that everybody understands that we want to talk about investments, and that's why I named it Rock the Street, Wall Street. But also, we are also encouraging them to come into the M of STEM career, which is finance. And for those of you in the room, you probably know this, but I want to make sure that everyone does. Finance is nothing more than 6th grade math. That's it. We do have our algos and quants, and obviously they'll know much more math, but generally speaking, I would say 99% of us in the profession only have to know 6th grade math. So we're lifting the veil on that with every girl that we meet in every classroom that we're in. And so we ask that question, how many of you can do 6th grade math? They'll all raise their hand, right? And so we're like, well, you can do beautifully in your own financial life and also in the profession of finance. And so they're like absolutely astounded at that. And I'll talk more about that later. So we have a 4-minute video, which Lena is about to come over and push play for us. It gives you a good explanation of what we're all about, so bear with us as we go through. All right. Okay, thank you for letting us show you that 4-minute video. I have the attention span of about 60 seconds, so that was, was big for me too. Okay, so I'm going to go to the clicker now, and we're going to go to the next slide. Okay, so this was fascinating for me. I was in the industry for 25 years, and I started off on Wall Street, and I was always, as you heard me say in the video, the only what we call producing female in the room. And I was fortunate enough to be part of a study group as well in my profession with my company, and it was 24 men and me for 8 years. And these were men from all over the country. And so it was just absolutely always, I was always the only female. And today, Kelly will start to talk to you about that, how it's still the case. But let's start back to why we don't have enough women coming into the STEM professions, and specifically the M in STEM. It has a lot to do with our culture. As you heard me say, they don't have this problem in China, Russia, nor Eastern European countries, interestingly enough. Now, we do have this problem in Western European countries and in America, in the United States. And so it starts, as you heard me say too, very young. When you have parents who have stereotypical roles, you will find that they will often imbue those roles into their own children without realizing it initially. And so, you know, we do a presentation. We've been working on that for a while too, and we have the life cycle of a girl in math, and it goes something like this. As I mentioned earlier, if they have a boy or a girl, boy and a girl, they will imbue those stereotypical roles into the child from a very young age. And then she gets to grade school, and as I mentioned, 90%, as you probably all know, are female in the grade school levels, and they have little to no certification in math. And believe me, I have many, many teachers in my family, so please bear with me on this, but I mean, it has to be talked about. And in the audience today is also my husband, who is a former middle school director. And in doing the research that I did, I should mention a little bit about my background. I was in finance for 25 years. I then was fortunate enough to retire at an early age, and then I said, there's got to be more to life than just this. So I went back to school, got my master's in civic leadership with my thesis on girls in math and how we lose them at age 9 in the United States. Some would say as early as age 6. And so it was fascinating for me to figure out that whole life cycle in reading all of the research on this. So back to the grade schools. And so the girls begin to see that their teachers have math anxiety in the classroom. And the University of Chicago has a number of studies on this, and they've sliced it and diced it in many, many different ways. And as you heard me say in the video too, that anxiety transfers to the girls in the classroom, but not the boys in the classroom. And so the girls begin to think it's societally acceptable for them to opt out of math. And so you will actually start to hear them in middle school say, well, I can't do math, you know? And then they get to their teenage years, and then we've actually had girls in some of our sessions say, well, I don't have to know math. My boyfriend will do that. I'm like, are you kidding me? And so we talk to them, and we kind of deprogram them on that concept. And so then they get to college, and that's why when they get to college, we still represent only 1 in 10 in the finance and economics classes and majors. It's no surprise, given this path, as to why we have so few women in the M and STEM specifically that I'm speaking about, but also in the STEM professions. And so I'll talk more about that. I'm going to go to the orange bubble where I mentioned the top 2 reasons. And this was fascinating too, but it's really, really simple if you think about it. So the top 2 reasons why girls are not in STEM professions, number 1 is they don't see women in those professions, and number 2, they don't see their friends, their girlfriends, choosing these majors and minors. And so we're battling that in every classroom that we're in. And so where they actually see women in STEM, 100% of our instructors are female financial professionals, 100%. And we do that for a reason, because we want to show the girls that, number 1, we exist, and number 2, we're facile with math. And as you know, we only have to know 6th grade math, right? And then the cohorts of students that we have in each of the schools, which we'll be speaking about, Angel will be speaking about in a minute or two, they see girls who are interested in math. You know, we actually had a young lady in Tennessee. It was a bit of a rural community, and I asked her, I said, why are you here? And this is when I was still piloting the program. I live in Nashville, Tennessee now. And she said, because my family thinks I'm a freak. I said, tell me about that. So she said, well, I come from a farming family, and I want to be a photographer, and I know that I need to know my own finances. And they all just think I shouldn't be doing this, and so forth and so on. So we created this community for her to feel safe about wanting to learn about finance. I mean, that was pretty simple and pretty obviously emboldening for her. So these are the kinds of things that we're doing. The schools we'll talk about in a few minutes, and then the finance industry will talk about their role too. I'll have Angel actually speaking about the schools, and Kelly will be speaking about the finance industries. So I'm going to switch to the next slide. So, as I mentioned earlier, it starts with the family. And again, this is the life cycle of a girl in math. She's learning her cues from her parents as far as what she's doing, whether it's, more of a feminine, as you can see there, more dance and literature, and the son, they want to do more athletics and more, of the more athletic pursuits. In addition to which, the research still shows that if they do have the boy and the girl, they will tell the boy to study math and science, and they will tell the daughter to study art and literature. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I mean, there should be the best of both, and they can interchange, and so that they can explore these other roads, which is what we're all about. Dad's role. The research here again shows that it's really important that dad get involved. And you have to intervene in getting the girls to understand how important this is. And the Girl Scouts actually did some research on this. This is more middle school level. But they found that if the fathers got involved in the girls' math education, that they took to it more readily. And so they begin to understand that this is something that they can do. Because one of the reasons, too, why girls are opting out is they hear it amongst themselves. And so when I have people approach me, how do I do this? How do I prevent this from happening for my daughter? It's happening right now. And we tell them, you have to intervene. You have to intervene. You have to talk to the teachers. You have to let them know that this issue is happening, and that and ask the teachers, of which you are all here, what are you doing about it? Are you, I know Ashley Leftwich is here. She's my chief operating officer. She and I were the only women in our math classes in college. I went to a small college in upstate New York, and Ashley went to the University of Georgia with 40,000 students, and she was the only woman in her math class. So this is the silent killer as to why women aren't choosing STEM. So it's really up to all of you here, if you're all educators, to really intervene and help these girls. One of the stories that Ashley told me is that in her class in Nashville, Tennessee, that the teacher would call on the boys, but she wouldn't call on the girls. And so they would just get discouraged and not raise their hand, And so there's the bias in the schools that has to come out and be dealt with. And so we hope that you realize this and call on the girls. I think it's important that you do challenge them in the math classes. And then how parents speak to daughters versus sons. Here again, you'll tell, they will normally tell their son to be more experimental, get out there and get knocked around and so forth and so on, whereas with the girls, they'll tell them, stay safe. Whatever you do, just stay safe. And don't bother to do that, and don't explore, and so forth and so on. So, and there's more about that, but I want to keep moving forward here because I want my panelists to get involved here as I can move through. So I've already said this before, but it's worth bearing again. This is absolutely a cultural issue. This is not a capability issue, given what the research is telling us. And so if you have women in China, Russia, Eastern European countries, most of the Asian countries who can do this, there's absolutely no reason why we can do this, why we can't do this in the United States as well. And so it is absolutely the messaging that they're receiving from a very early age on that has to change. And so that's our goal, is to try to change the culture. That's all. And also, despite the fact that research shows many of the girls outperform the boys in math in the middle school and some of the high school levels, and then opt out of studying math largely due to cultural messaging. So here's the school's role. One of the things that came out too, and again, keep in mind, many educators in my family, I have cousins, my husband, but I'm going to just be the one to reveal all of this, and you may or may not know this, but there's a survey called Survey of the States, and if you want it, they just put out a new one. They do it every 2 years, and in the Survey of the States, they go through these stats, and so this is one of the stats, and 80% of public school teachers self-report that they do not feel competent teaching financial literacy. So if that's the case, then we need to help them, right? And so that's why I got the industry involved. In terms of where I came from, I went back to them and I said, look, they need help, in teaching this. And we need to be of service to our local high schools in getting this financial literacy taught and taught properly. And so that's a big statistic. That is a very, very large percentage. And so, think about it. If you had 80% of the teachers reporting that they don't feel competent in teaching English or teaching history, to me, that's not acceptable. I've already talked about the anxiety, the lack of personal finances. Many of the schools don't offer personal finance classes, and to me that's criminal, quite frankly, because we have to deal with money for the rest of our lives, and so we absolutely do need to have these kinds of classes. You're not equipping them for real life otherwise. And so we bring the program to the school, which you'll hear about that in a minute or two. And then co-ed education. And so one of the things I specifically have made this a single-sex program simply because, first of all, my experience in the industry, number one, but number two, also watching it in the classroom. Here's a perfect example, and this is really a good story. There was a school in Hendersonville, Tennessee, where we were piloting, and the principal immediately let us in. And she said, but here's the rub. It's a co-ed public school. I'm going to let you take it during assembly. I will have 100 juniors and seniors there on Monday and 100 juniors and seniors there on Tuesday. You cannot mention, Maura, until the very end that this is a single-sex education class. And I said, fine with me. So I do the pitch, and I tell them what it's about, and I tell them we're going to be talking about stocks, which include Tesla, and Apple, and Netflix, and Google, and so forth and so on. So we're in a stadium seating, and so while I'm there, we get to the Q&A, and who do you think is moving forward, and who do you think are raising their hands? The boys, right? They're like coming out of their seats. And so not one question from one girl. And I was like, wow, I can't believe this. And then I had to tell them that it was just for girls. And then oh, no way, the boys. And I don't know how to tell you this, but it's just for girls. And then a couple of the girls came up. We had about maybe 5 or 6 girls sign up on that session. And then we did the same exact thing on Tuesday, same exact presentation. However, the principal is in the room with us this time. She announces before Q&A, okay, all the boys are dismissed. Now, I have not debriefed with her. I didn't tell her about the experience yet, okay? She knows nothing yet about the day before. She dismisses all the boys in the room. Now we get to Q&A. Now who's leaning forward, who's raising their hands and asking questions? The girls, right? And I'm like, wow, what a world of difference. And we had like triple, if not more than that, number of girls sign up. It was just a real testimony to the research, which is that the girls won't raise their hand when the boys are in the room. And so, again, this is a cultural issue. And I did ask another school, equivalent type of school, and I said, what was going on there? And they said, we want to be liked. And I said, are you kidding? It's like, because you ask a question, you think you're not going to be liked? And they said, yeah, believe it or not. Not only will the boys not like us, the girls won't like us because they think we're showing off. Culture, right? It's all culture. And so that's why I went with a single-sex education. And now we're going to go to the next slide. Well, actually, let me go back to the school's role. So if I can, let me go there. Okay, so Angel, if you would be so kind. So Angel is I believe, guidance counselor at Stuyvesant?
Yeah, school counselor at Stuyvesant High School.
Yeah. So why don't you tell them about your experience with Rock the Street, Wall Street, and how you helped to recruit the students and so forth, if you would, please.
Okay, thank you, Maura. And actually, before I even begin, I just want to acknowledge, again, this is the educated part of me. This being the month of March, again, happy Women's History Month and happy International Women's Week. So again, round of applause to everyone here. Again, and this segues really into our presentation, especially empowering young girls, young women into the field of finance. So as Maura mentioned, my name is Angel Colon, and I am a school counselor at Stuyvesant High School. I've been there for 17 years now. And I want to borrow a quote from one of the movies. How many of you guys ever seen the movie Field of Dreams? Okay. You know the line, if you build it, they will come. Well, this is pretty much what Rock the Street, Wall Street is all about. We're in our third year of this collaboration, this association with this phenomenal program. I think we've had about 124 young girls from diverse backgrounds, from Asian, Southeast Asian, Latinas, African Americans, Muslims, to really, really go to this program. And when we first started, if I remember, actually, it started as a field trip. So actually, I started as a chaperone to my co-leader, Harvey Blum, who, again, would be here, but he couldn't make it. So I'm filling in for him. But it was through Harvey that I got connected with this amazing program through Invesco. And so our school, Stuyvesant High School, is known more for its STEM. Well, now it's STEAM because now they added the arts. So we're a STEAM high school. And so, one of the things that we were always doing, because again, when we have conversations with our students, especially in terms of their career paths, what they're looking to do. Again, most of them, like I said, are looking at programs, medical, law, politics. And so what happened was that we were seeing that some of the things that we do not have at Stuyvesant High School is things in terms of business or finance. And so we had a collaboration. Well, this talk happened with one of our social studies assistant principals, Jennifer Suri, of looking at ways, because the fact that young people do not really get exposed to, let's say, a subject such as economics till their senior year. So they're taking a lot of the basic courses of U.S. history, global studies, European, so there's a lot of things that really are the prerequisites. And so they won't really get exposed to a lot of their business, careers till later on. So, but this is where something like the Rock the Street, Wall Street program comes in, where through Harvey and through a lot of the connections, and obviously the connections with the administrators of the program, we just we just started the pilot program. So part of it was we had a field trip, and I always remember that because it always stands out. When the students, because we were very close, we went to their offices by the Brookfield Place in the financial district, and as soon as we kind of came out of the elevator and started to go to the corridor of their office, and you'll see this picture. It's actually on the slide. They had this nice blue screen welcoming Stuyvesant High School, and you figured, okay, the kids will see this, they would go straight into and settle in. No, as soon as they saw that, all of a sudden, cell phones came out, started taking pictures, selfies with the background, and again, just something for them to have. And then obviously, we settled in, and then obviously there was just this wonderful presentation that you guys just saw. And this is the expanded version because obviously, it has changed over the years. But that right there was just that first impression. And again, I think we started with junior students because again, these were junior students that were segueing their ways into high school, into the economics field, knowing that, okay, maybe I go into this field. Matter of fact, the junior year, just because this also is also important because junior year is also that year where they start, going through the college process. They start thinking, okay, what schools am I applying to? What are the steps? So obviously they have obviously the consultations from the school counselors, but also through the college advisors. But again, getting back to to the personal stories, and again, this is definitely all connected. I assure you that there's a story of how this program has really impacted a lot of young people to really start thinking about this field and entering it and being much more knowledgeable. Because again, when a lot of our young people now come into this program, again, some of them have some knowledge, and sometimes some of it is maybe through parents or family members. But most of them, like I said, do not really know much about, or again, as Maura mentioned, the fact that by the time they're in the early parts or the later stages of elementary, transitioning into their middle school tween years, a lot of them have kind of given up, fields such as math, such as computer sciences, because they kind of get this impression that, okay, it's a male-dominated field, boys go more into this area, and girls go more into this area. So again, these are the myths and the stereotypes that we want to break down and really just empower the young people. So this is what has been over the years the experience of, and again, not just the experience, but the testimonials that the students have also shared with us. Because again, all we have to do is provide them with that room, that safe space. So and usually the safe space usually take place after school, because again, it's hard to really do it through their school days. But again, because we are able to provide this safe space for them after school. And again, usually it'll start at 3:45, 4 o'clock. But usually it's about an hour, the workshops and the seminars with the professionals, the mentors that they also get to engage with. But they get so much. They get so much of those personal insights. They get so much in terms of those early steps of, hey, I can be in your position, because again, this is the impact of the relationship, and that's what it's the key thing. They establish a relationship. They establish that connection. They feel like, wow, you are speaking to me. You are hearing me. Your story is my story. And I think that's what's really important, is to establish that connection, to establish that relationship, that these young people can see themselves in Maura, in Kelly, in Ashley. I mean, a lot of the people that they're exposed to through the business field. And so, again, it's just that part. So the way that, we, as Stuyvesant have gone over the years in really establishing it is that when we had that first cohort, come through the program and they completed it, a lot of them returned, but also not only did they return, but they started to also mentor the young students that were the up and coming into our school. So from junior year to senior year, we started to hey, let's see if we can make this work with the lower classmen of freshmen and sophomores. And so from there, they kind of started hearing the personal stories, because again, a lot of these students, what they learned through the mentors and through this program, and they created their own PowerPoint. They created their own PowerPoint where they were able to have these workshops and these presentations for the students. So, again, this is just one of the ways that, it just really led to something that was just growing and developing. And I was talking to Harvey. I said, Harvey, this is a keeper. This thing is going to really blow up. And here we are now where, and again, who would have known that I would be speaking to you guys right now in this convention, because I tell you, I am so honored. You don't know the goosebumps that I'm feeling right now, going through this big body here in front of you. But, this is just something that I feel like it's just something that we need more in other schools. Because again, I mean, we're privileged in terms of this being at Stuyvesant and 8 other schools in New York City area. We're looking to really expand this and to see where the growth of this program has also gone through parts of the United States and Canada, London. I mean, the fact that this is just part of the growth of a movement, because I think that's what everything is all about, is creating these movements, creating these changes, and reaching out and educating those that, maybe they just never feel like, hey, they would have this opportunity, because I think that's what it is providing these opportunities, providing these safe spaces where they can just feel empowered, they can feel like they can have these conversations in an open setting. And again, whatever they do not know, they know that they have, these adult professionals to have their back, because not only from what I remember some of the students, when they completed the program, they're still in touch with some of these professionals. So obviously, the relationship has gone from the high school partnership to being friends, to being colleagues. I believe some of them also have been prepped to have internships, because again, when they go to college, there's also been the internship opportunities through the connections, through a lot of the people. So, I mean, I can go on and on, but this is the excitement that I have about this program.
Well, it's coming through. Thank you. Thank you so much, Angel. Really appreciate it. And he's touched on a number of things, and I hope to address them too. One is the internship and job board, which we finally got the industry to understand, what is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And, we have been 1 in 10 in the finance classrooms for about 50, 60 years now. And again, you heard me say, if we wait till they get to college, we waited too long. And so finally the industry understands that they need to recruit and they need to get these girls interested in the high school, if not even earlier ages, into finance. And so we just launched in August our internship and job board. These are paid internships and paid entry-level jobs in finance. There are over 100 of them listed now. And again, we really just started this in August, so the industry is coming to us, which is phenomenal. So we want to be known as the place to go for emerging female diverse talent. And so it's working. So if you have students in your schools that are interested in finance, please, or economics for that matter, please tell them to go to our job site. It's on the website, which is rockthestreetwallstreet.com. And again, they're all over the country. Some of these are virtual, but they're all over the country. As you know, we're in 26 cities and 51 high schools and growing. We're adding 6 cities this coming fall, too, by the way. Okay, so I'm going to now go to finance role. So here I'll just state the stats, and then I'm going to hand it over to Kelly. So, here's the paltry stats, in terms of what's happening, again, with why girls aren't choosing the STEM professions. And again, I'm focusing on the M in STEM. Women represent only 2.5% of the hedge fund managers, 8% of venture capital partners, 9% of mutual fund managers, and 12% of private equity professionals. Given this fact, is there no surprise as to what it is that most of the financial services industry invests in, given that we don't have, the other half of the species really involved in making those decisions? So you'll hear us, and on our website, you'll see us, our motto is, if we change who we invest in, we will change what we invest in. And so we want to have these young women have a seat at the table. And so that's our goal. And so I will mention the disconnect in recruiting, and then I'm going to hand it over to you, Kelly. So this was absolutely interesting. I was sitting down at a dinner at MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University. I happened to be sitting next to a gentleman who is a Buddhist. He's from Nepal, and I told him what I did. He told me what he did. He was the head of Eastern Studies at the school, and he said, I find your role fascinating. And I said, really, why? And he said, I have a daughter who's at the University of Chicago. For those of you who know the University of Chicago, it's a quant school, really quant school. And he said, here's what happened to her. She majored in math, and she said all of Wall Street was coming to her, trying to recruit her. And all they could talk about was the money. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but she's a Buddhist, right? And if instead they had said to her, you can change the face of a city by helping the city with its finances and reducing its interest rates, you could change the face of a state by helping it to build better roads, better bridges, and so forth and so on, and finance those bonds, and so forth. And you can help a new startup with getting its IPO, initial public offering. If we had, I do believe that women are hardwired to want to help people. I think it comes from the fact that we're nurtured by the same sex. We're females, and I think it runs in our veins to want to help. We don't objectify as much, and so we want to help others. And I think if Wall Street would begin to recruit in that manner, they would be a lot more successful in getting the female side of the talent. And then I'm going to now hand it over to Kelly, who is with Invesco, who has been at the field trip that Angel was at, and many more. And Invesco started with one school up in Manhattan. They now sponsor 3 schools. One is in Houston, and the other is in Atlanta. Yeah, Atlanta. And so we're very, very grateful to Invesco, and they have seen it grown among not only the students in the schools, but also her volunteers, which she's going to be speaking about. So Kelly, do you want to speak a little bit about your experience?
Good morning. I'm so happy all of you are here. I really appreciate you coming today. And is this mic on? Yep. Okay. I'll just keep going right ahead.
Want to switch?
Okay, thanks. Okay, good. Can you hear me? Okay, great. So Invesco is an asset management firm. We are headquartered in Atlanta, Georgia. And my job is the global head of corporate outreach that we do and also corporate responsibility. So one of the things I look for in my job is where the holes are in my industry. And what the big hole right now is in diversity, equity, inclusion. So we do not have enough women in our industry. So you think this is a simple task, you just go out and offer more money. The problem is the slates are not out there. So when you go to get women, they're not in the industry to actually pull from, to actually get into these jobs. So as I started doing this, working with talent acquisition at Invesco, we started going to colleges. And I was very lucky to work privately for our CEO of Invesco for 12 years, and before I came back to the firm. And so I knew one of his biggest aspirations was to get more women into the industry. And his daughter, actually his third child, had gone to University of Georgia and was actually interviewing for jobs. And I think his eyes got really opened when he saw what she was going through trying to get into the industry. And she's like, Dad, there's nobody like me at these places that I'm interviewing. I really, I'm going to be there 10 hours a day. I want to have people that look like me. It needs to be a little bit of fun as well as making money. And I think Marty's eyes really got open to, man, we've got a big problem here. And we knew that we had a problem in the industry and in our firm, but really thought, well, we can just solve this by going to colleges. So Marty had gone to SMU. I actually had twin girls that were in the business school at SMU at that time. So we thought this is a slam dunk. We'll go to SMU, we'll do a council, we'll make sure that the panel has women on it, young women. We'll invite everyone from the business school to come and see what happens. Well, exactly what happened, what you would think would happen, exactly what Maura said. The boys leaned in, asked all the questions, very few girls said anything. And I realized very quickly that even the boys in the room did really not know what the asset management industry was. They knew investment banking, they knew working these big jobs for 18 hours a day for the banks who were actively recruiting, but not really doing what we needed. And as we walked out of that room, I thought, we've still got a problem. No matter how many colleges we go to, by the time they get in the business school, they're in their junior year. Well, they're already on their way by the time. You've already lost them. So I was like, we need to get into the high schools. Well, actually having no idea how, as you can imagine, how to get into high schools. We're a global firm. I'm like, how do you even do something like this? Well, when I'm in New York working, actually I had a woman come up to me who's involved in the Women's Bond Club in New York and came to me and said, we've just heard this amazing woman, Maura Cunningham, speak at the Women's Bond Club, and she's doing exactly what you keep talking about. So I'm part of the Invesco Women's Network on the Global Committee. So this is a global problem that we deal with, and so we talk about it a lot. And said, you need to contact Maura Cunningham. She's starting this in high schools. So I gave Maura a call and I said, talk to me a little bit about what you're doing, what are your success rates? And I thought, this is amazing. And so when I went back after talking with Maura, finding out more about the program, I sat down with Marty and I said, look, I think this is our ticket. I said, this woman is from the industry. She understands the industry. She's getting directly into high schools. And the most important thing is she's recruiting directly into our industry. So that's basically how we started. We started with Stuyvesant High School, said, let's try this in New York. So one of the most important things that I will say, just to help you out, that I know learning experiences that we learned, was having the high school close to the investment firm you're partnering with. Because you want the women who've got these crazy busy jobs to be able to go to the high school and interface with the girls. And I think that's the most important thing, is that personal connection. Because you learn really quickly. You think this asset management is rocket science, and you can't do it, but you can do it. It's sixth grade math, we can all do it. So I think that having that relationship and the girls starting to feel comfortable is really extremely important. So we started at Stuyvesant High School. Harvey and Angel have been rock stars over there. It's so much a part of that relationship is having an advocate on that side. So I can get all the women from the industry all the way up to the chief marketing officer to participate, but if I don't have girls on the other end, we can't make that connection. So that is extremely important. We want to help, but we need the other end of it. So Stuyvesant started off, we did our first year. I was really shocked at how many women signed up at Invesco. And we start off, it's super simple. And that, I think that's the other key, is it's turnkey. Rock the Street has it super organized. All we had to do was a plug and play. Sign up for that, recruit the women. They did all the rest of the work, which was great. There were 5 lessons in the fall. The women signed up. We probably had 7 to 8 people teach a lesson. The students were on the other side. Then we have an office tour. The students came to the office. I got to meet Maura for the first time in person, Angel and Harvey. The students came. They got to do a tour of the office. This is where you would sit if you worked here. This is what this feels like if you come here. This is where you get coffee. This is, our business resource groups where you would plug in. Kind of give them a feeling of, can you see yourself here? We want you here. And then the spring session was actually a mentoring session. So about half the girls re-sign up, Invesco women sign up, and these are one-to-one mentor sessions, sometimes 2 women, 2 students, but really a more personal relationship where they get to make a strong connection. The partnership was so successful that the next year we started it in Atlanta. And that partnership, so many women signed up, which was great. And then we expanded. I said, when are you moving? I need, my biggest office is in Houston. She's like, okay, we're in Texas. I was like, hallelujah. I'm from San Antonio. I went to Baylor University. I said, my heart is in Texas. So I'm very excited about this. So we started partnering with Lamar High School in Houston this year. It's been a super successful partnership. I think the one thing that I can say really from my heart and honestly is I have seen the women on my side come alive. So you start getting hopeless when you're on this side and you're not seeing more women coming into the industry. You're like, how do we do this? How do we get more women in here? And I've seen these women share with the students at Rock the Street, but the transparency that's come through in hearing their stories. So I just see the business side of them. I don't really see the personal side. And so one of the questions that the students really ask a lot is, how did you get into this industry? And it's been shocking to me that the chief marketing officer, so Christina Hooper, who speaks on CNBC, all these women said, this wasn't really around when I was there. I kind of fell into this. And I'm thinking, are you serious? I'm thinking you had this incredible plan as you went through, finding out they really just fell into this industry by one connection leading to another connection and seeing where they are now. So I think the strong interest is we don't want the next students to have to fall into it. We want there to be a path for them. So the partnership has been amazing. I'm looking to expand it as we move even further. So, I'm asking, can we get into Chicago? We've got, many of you are familiar with NCAA. So we are the official ETF sponsor. So as you see Final Four, you'll see Invesco with a lot of that going on. We're starting financial literacy programs, and I would love to get this into Chicago next. So with all the things that are going on there. So without taking up too much time, and I'm happy to answer any questions in the end, it's been an amazing program.
Thanks, Kelly. Thank you.
Okay, so it's a lot of challenges. So how can we change the girls' mindsets on financial education? I think you've been hearing some of that. And yeah, we have a solution. Yay. So, I will say this. When I was doing my master's research, I interviewed 24 academics from middle school, high school, administrative, public school, private school, co-ed schools, single-sex schools, district schools, magnet schools, you name it, I was in there. And so the very first thing I shouldn't say the very first thing, but certainly throughout every conversation, they continuously told me, these teachers continuously told me, Maura, if you do this, make it relevant, make it relevant, make it relevant. And that's exactly what we do. We rip from the headlines. And so I myself am a news hound, and that's why I got into finance. I just loved the way that the people, I used to watch Wall Street Week, which was with Louis Werkheiser. I'm really aging myself here. But I was astounded at how much these financial people knew about the world events. And I was like, wow, they know really what's happening. And so I make it absolutely an imperative thing that we refresh the curriculum every summer. And we're a full year program, by the way. We're not a one and done. As Kelly alluded to, we have 4 components to the program, 3 of which are during the academic year, and the 4th is the internship and job board. But I will say that our curriculum is very relevant. We make it's all done in the summer, and we look back at how the market had moved during the year past and what the expectation is for the year coming. We also do a lot of hands-on learning, project-based learning, as you might call it, where we turn the tables on the girls and they become a financial advisor to Janella in each of our curriculum. And they keep meeting her at different ages, and they have to plan for her financial life. And then, as I said, keep things fresh. And then the next one, there you go. There's your 4 components. The first 2 happen in the fall. And the third is the mentorship. The mentorship is usually we get about 70% of the students, anywhere from 50 to 70% of the students re-up with us. They must re-enroll with us because we want to know how many of them are serious about getting into business, because the women who will be tutoring them obviously want to be in some way, shape, or form have a student who is interested in what it is that they're doing as a profession. And so that ratio, by the way, is usually 1 to 2, meaning we have one female financial professional with 2 students, generally speaking. And that certainly beats the average guidance council ratio, which is 1 to 250 students. So many of these girls would never have access to these type of opportunities that we provide them in doing LinkedIn profiles, resume writing, and then I mentioned the social capital, and that I can't say enough. I was born and raised in the Bronx, the baddest borough there is in New York, and my parents, I'm first generation American, both my parents are from Ireland. And I went directly to Wall Street, but as I've told many people, if I had had this program when I was their age, my career would have been catapulted easily or fast forwarded by 10 years to get to where I got, easily, because the women we're putting them in touch with are really leaders in their industry. And so to have someone on the inside to help you getting into the field is just phenomenal. And we call that social capital. And I'm going to wrap up quickly here because I know we want to get to Q&A. So we are currently in 51 high schools and across, it's actually 26 cities, yep. And so we're going to London this fall. We're adding 6 more cities this fall as well. So stay tuned and you'll see all of that. Now we're in Canada, in Vancouver too, by the way. And we're actually adding Hawaii, which is really going to be fun, and so forth. These are our results. We're metric people. We like results. So we have serviced over 4,000 girls. Our increase in financial literacy and investment literacy is 78%. That's a 3-year weighted average. We're pretty proud of that. And then we sample the girls as they exit our program and ask how many of you are going to major or minor in finance, economics, or a related computational field. And our students are 5 times more likely than the average female attending college. And those are stats that we get from the National Student Clearinghouse, if you are familiar with that. And then, as we stated earlier, our demographics are 73% are BIPOC, and 48% of our students come from low-income households. So we're looking for all types of students of all different makes and so forth. And we're really happy to be bringing this to all the different types of students that are out there. This is how to do this. So you form a public-private partnership, which is what we've done, obviously. We go to the public school, we find out, whether or not they could support the program. There does need to be some infrastructure in the program. There are 3 things that we do ask for the school to do. Number 1, provide us with a classroom. Number 2, help to recruit the students. And number 3, join us at the field trip. As you can tell from Angel having been there, he became a real big fan on the field trip because he understood the impact it had. And
And I want to add something about this curriculum. Again, it's so structured and easy to follow, but again, it really provides that pathway to success. Again, a lot of the young people start really enhancing, a lot of their skill sets that it really, really leads them to. Matter of fact, one of the things I want to add real quick, as a school counselor, when they get into their junior year, into their senior year, one of the things that when I sit with them and I'm doing their college process, and I do something called the secondary school report, which is a SSR, letter recommendation to the colleges. Because usually, like I said, it'll be one from the school counselor, and the other letter recommendation would be through a teacher or through the people that they meet, in terms of outside recommendations. So a lot of what we've seen also is with the females that have been on my caseload, a lot of them are applying to schools like UPenn's Wharton schools, NYU Stern, McGill University. So again, we have also seen a lot of this, upgrade of interest, to a lot of these business type schools. So again, I cannot emphasize enough what Rock the Street, Wall Street has really provided in terms of, that roadmap.
I'll just say there too. I mean, just imagine, I know I have a 31-year-old daughter, and when my daughter was in high school, I had asked the college counselor who was at the school, her high school, how do I make her different from the others? And she said, Maura, they have enough A students, believe me, they have enough A students. And so it occurred to me, I thought, that really hit me. She had to put her extracurriculars and everything on there. And I think, just imagine if you're a girl and you went and were a member of Rock the Street, Wall Street, right? And that really takes notice. People will take notice of that on the college application. In addition to which, we have what are called student CEOs, where we have 2 girls in each of our cohorts be the CEO of our cohort there. And just imagine having that on their resume too, for any job that they apply for, or any college that they apply for. So it absolutely separates them from the pack in terms of they want somebody who will give something back to the other students on the campus. That's what we were told, what I was told as a parent. They want to know what is most interesting about your daughter that will add to the college community life. And so that will tell you that that's there. I'm going to stop this because I know there might be some questions. There is student recruitment. We have 7 tips for you. It's all in writing. You can get that at on our website. This is, again, single-sex education, the National Coalition of Girls Schools. Of course, graduates in all-girls settings are 6 times more likely to consider majoring in math, science, and technology compared to girls at the co-ed schools. And again, another reason why I went with single-sex. And then I mentioned all of this. The industry takes the funding and community involvement and all the rest of that. But I'm just going to flick through here. There's what
That's what I'm talking about.
Angel was talking about. That was at the actual field trip itself, where all the girls. And so it's a huge hallway. So that's just a big long hallway that made them feel very welcome to the event, to the field trip. These are just a list of some of our schools. If you want the full list, we can absolutely give that to you. It just keeps going. There's more here. So you may know some of them. We have 9 in Manhattan alone. We're growing to 10 this year. We have 5 in the San Francisco Bay Area, 5 in Chicago. Here in Texas, we have, I believe, 4, if not more, 4, and so forth. So we'll talk more about that. And then these are some of our sponsors. So at this point, I'm going to kind of, these are the resources that we have. But I just want to know, does anybody have a question? Yes.
So I'm an elementary teacher. I teach, 10 and 11-year-olds, and the statistics about that, most girls by age 9 are tapped out of math, really structured coordinate needs. I teach, we do a unit on economics and financial literacy, banking and savings accounts, checking accounts. We touch a little bit on, mutual funds versus stocks and things like that. Do you have any advice for younger teachers to help try to set girls up for success? I know that obviously this is a high school program, but to try to help break that up before they get, to that high school level?
Actually, I can, yes, because again, part of what also is in the works. So one also is that we started also a Walk the Street, Wall Street club at our school. So a lot of our current students, hopefully in the fall of next year, are looking to go into the early elementary, middle schools to talk to young students about the fields, not just in terms of business, but also STEM. So we actually are putting together an outreach group, with our students. We'll do a field trip to a lot of the elementary, middle schools that we're reaching out to in New York City. And also, because we're also in virtual now, we're looking to also do maybe, and again, with all these amazing schools, that maybe kind of do like a virtual network of states, throughout the school, so like that, each chapter kind of like reach out to each chapter, maybe like I said, share resources, share some ideas, see what are some of the things that we're doing that works for us that maybe can also work in your school. Obviously, I'm more than willing, and I'm sure Harvey Blum as an educator, networking with the adults here, whether it be in our states or other states, and obviously, through the Invesco and the Rock to Wall Street. So there's a lot of things that we can do now, it's because again, with the virtual and the remote, now we can really expand into, other means, okay?
We actually started in middle schools. The challenge was classroom control. They get up, they get down, they get up, they get down, they get up, they get down. And so we have, it's female financial professionals, and so they don't know classroom management. And so I thought, this is going to be hard on them. And so the other issue was they really didn't know money yet, right? They didn't have any real need to know money. We did it with cupcakes and things. I thought, well, this isn't going to do it. So I said, I got to bump this up to the high school level. But it's amazing what you're doing. I mean, that's amazing for a middle schooler to do what it is you're doing. I would say the best thing, field trip.
And that's crucial, to have the
Absolutely,
adult
a field
partner of that school. So basically, we're faculty advisors. So again, the students are with the Invesco, but we're also present in there. So again, when in our part we have the computer, we reserve the computer labs, because again, right now we're doing virtually, but now with the mask being lifted, we're going to go back to in person. But yes, but it's definitely important to have the staff, that can volunteer that 1 hour, for the program.
Yeah, and if you can, I would go to a community bank, it depends on which city you're in, and just tell them what you want to do, and could they do an extended lunch and learn for your students? They would probably do it. I would, if you make the pitch right, I think they would do it. And that was a huge difference in the girls' lives. Yes? The sponsoring entity. No, we don't. We don't. Most of the market challenges are at a different time of the year than our program, and so we just couldn't get it to align with our program in terms of the dates. So we don't do that. But they follow the stock market during our program too. So each week they come back and they learn about what happened in the market that particular week that just passed.
I will tell you that we do that in Invesco. So yes, we do. So we do go in and teach the teachers because we realize there's a huge issue there, and we have people on the board from Invesco on that council in Georgia.
Another question? Right here?
Do you partner with private schools?
We have, and we're agnostic as far as what kind of school we go into because the financial literacy and investment literacy affects all girls from all socioeconomic strata. I mean, my clients who are very wealthy individuals, I would beg to have their wives and daughters join us for the presentations of the business that the family is already in and investments, and they wouldn't come. So we're totally agnostic as far as where we go. And we have been in private schools. In Nashville, we've been in Harvard Hall. In Beverly Hills, we've been in Harvard Westlake. So we're agnostic on that.
And then second question, if there's a girl who wants to be a part of this program, but you're not in their school, is there a way for them to participate?
That's a little tough, but we have interest, as you saw, it's actually now over 100 cities. So we're looking at hybrids and virtual sessions where we could potentially do that, because we also have women from the industry who want to volunteer, but their company isn't sponsoring us. So we're looking into that as a possibility. So if you just reach out to us, we have a list of who's interested, and that's why we know there's over 100 cities out there. Oh, time. I'm being told it's time. Okay, so thank you so much for everything, and thank you to my panelists. Really appreciate it. And just look us up at rockthestreetwallstreet.com.
And each one teach one. Okay.